welcome back to the Royal Mint Museum podcast. In this series of 6 episodes, we are going to explore the secret life of coins, looking at all the ways people have used coins that are not monetary. Essentially, that is 101 uses of coins, although I cannot promise we'll give you all 101. But over the next 6 episodes, we will look at how they have been used as tools, weights, in jewellery, in ceremonies, for making big political statements, or as touching mementos of an abandoned child. Now, for this journey, I am joined in this episode by my 2 fellow co-hosts, Susie Sanford.
Hello.
And for her first time on the podcast, Abigail Kempin.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, Abigail.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. I think you should give the listeners a bit of your backstory, though, so we can understand a bit more about you.
So, a little bit about me. I've worked at the museum for 13 years. And lucky for some, it's flown by, hasn't it? So you and I have been here a similar amount of time. And I do exhibitions. So I put on the exhibitions that we have in the Royal Mint Experience, but also do work around the country with other museums and institutions to get our story out there. Done exhibitions at the Tower of London, even got to take objects down and drive within the walls of the tower, which is a massive career highlight for me. Driving over the drawbridge, driving and having lots of people take my picture, thinking I was somebody very important. And done exhibitions at the Bank of England Museum, British Museum, museums in Cardiff, all around the place really, just to try and tell our story a little bit more widely.
And now you get to join us on our podcast.
Yeah, I've kind of elbowed my way in, haven't I?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
But you're all about storytelling, and that's what we're hopefully about on the podcast as well. And as Susie makes the point, I am now outnumbered.
Yes, girl power.
Yes, Susie, we did it.
We did. We're going to take over.
But don't worry, listeners, because David Mason will return later in the podcast to even up the numbers. Now, this idea all started from a file that we have in the Royal Mint Museum's library.
Yeah, for many, many decades, our colleagues Graham Dyer and Kevin Clancy have been putting together a list of non-monetary uses of coins. And it's just gained the title over the years as 101. We call it 101 things to do with coins.
Yeah, it's fairly legendary now, I think. Anytime I'm out and about, if somebody mentions a way of using a coin that's not monetary, I'm like, oh, I should put that in the green box file.
Add it to the file, add it to 101.
And we are now well over 101 uses of coins. And this is just a long, long list of how anybody and everybody has used them, some of which we will explore throughout this series. But in order to start this whole episode off and this whole series off, we decided to go to the Royal Mint Museum's canteen to hear how our staff put their coins to use.
It was good fun doing this, and it's kind of appropriate because it's Mint staff and obviously we spend our days making money, so who better to talk to about the use of coins? But also it's quite ironic because for security reasons no Mint staff are allowed to bring coins on site, so the Mint is actually a
completely coin-free zone for staff purposes anyway.
But despite that though, people did have some really good ideas for different uses, things that I'd never thought of. And we started quite reluctantly, almost sort of, is it okay if we disturb your lunch? And by the end of it, we were just chatting to people and finding out all these interesting ways that people had used coins.
So let's go and take a listen at how Abigail and Susie interrupted everybody's curry day at the canteen.
It's Thursday lunchtime here at the Royal Mint. The sun's shining and we're going to head over to the canteen to chat to some colleagues about how they use coins. It should be busy because it's curry day.
Hello, sorry to interrupt your conversation. So we're from the museum, we're recording our podcast today, and we're looking for like vox pops from people of ways they've used coins that aren't buying things. Have you ever used like a coin to throw in a wishing well or as a screwdriver or?
The amusements in it, like, you know, when you put 2p's in and stuff.
Like the 2p machines.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Do you know what? It's a good one. Tossing a coin to make a decision. Do you know what I mean? How many times have you done that in your life? Yeah.
Sometimes I flip a coin to see who goes first in a football game or not.
If I buy somebody a purse, I always put a coin in there because it's unlucky not to.
And at Christmas time, we'd put a penny in the Christmas pudding.
Shopping trolleys. I always keep £1 inside of my car just to use for shopping trolleys. Otherwise, I never got a shopping trolley.
My parents used to level up the fireplace on the columns with 2 10p's either side to level it up. And my sister and I infrequently would pinch them, and the parents would come in, notice the fireplace was lower and we'd both have a row.
On holiday in Sri Lanka, and one of the ladies in our tour group got stuck in the toilet on the train, and there was all these men like panicking, trying to get this woman out because the train was about to pull out of the station. Lucy whips out a 1p coin from her pocket and uses it as a tool, like a little screwdriver, to open the lock and free the lady.
So many of my friends use coins as markers on the golf course to mark their ball.
I've sometimes used coins as guitar picks when I found myself without one.
I use coins as fidget spinners.
Yeah, sometimes I've used coins as paperweights. So I went to the Trevi Fountain and threw some coins in for good luck.
So I've used either a 5p piece or a 1p piece to use as a weight on a record arm, so it sits nicely on the record.
I bought my husband cufflinks for sixpences on the year he was born for an anniversary present.
I did have a coin set into jewellery for my wedding because I got married in 2016 and I wanted a 100-year-old coin. So I had it set into a pendant and wore it on my wedding day.
Perfect. That was my something. Have you ever used a coin in a non-transactional way?
It was in the high street, yeah.
So what had someone done?
Literally glued the coin to the ground, and then my child came along to try and pick it up and couldn't.
I used to play pitch and toss with a coin. I kept him laughing. And obviously toss a coin, playing football.
All the trains, the corn trains, coming down the valley, whatever. Yeah. Well, you'd get pennies, put two of them, one on top of each other, and you get a double-headed penny. Wouldn't look like a penny, might be squash, but...
It sounds like the pair of you had a great time in the canteen.
We did. It was good fun, wasn't it?
It was the most fun, especially as it's nice to give our colleagues a platform, to say their piece. And I love the variety of accents that we've got in there. Somebody commented it's probably the most Welsh thing we've ever recorded. And I love it. I love it.
And some really random examples of how people have used coins.
Yeah, some we'd heard of before. Lots of people have heard of throwing a coin in the Trevi Fountain and using coins as jewellery, like those sort of anniversary and wedding sort of elements, heard of that. But then there were some really lovely examples as well, wasn't there?
Fidget spinner. I've never thought of a fidget spinner as a coin.
It was a complete surprise when somebody said that they used it. But it makes sense if you think about holding a 50p and twiddling around, in the same way that you would a fidget spinner. And Abigail was desperate to find somebody else who had experienced having a coin stuck to the ground as a practical joke.
Oh, I just remember in primary school, I couldn't have been more than 4 or 5, somebody glued a 50p to the playground with super glue, and obviously much hilarity with everybody trying to pick it up and prise it up off the floor.
There was a bit of a craze, wasn't there, many decades ago now, I suppose. But
hang on a minute, I'm not that old.
I remember it 10, 15, 20 years ago, so maybe. But so I remember a bit of a craze, people gluing things to the floor. But the question is why do people use coins? So what is it about coins that leads people to using them for other things other than just money?
Yeah, and all of these varied in different ways.
Yeah, and there's so many different things about the coin's characteristic that can lead to it being used in different ways. But perhaps one of the most obvious is that they're readily available. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I'd say most people at some point have had coins in their pockets, and they're incredibly handy.
Yeah, when you're looking at them as tools, I remember my father always used to have a pocket full of coins. He'd have screws and nails and string and, dad things, but there would always be coins just in his pocket.
So let's take a look at this famous list of 101 objects. What are your favourites? Let's start with you, Abigail.
Well, a nice little one to get us going is if you clutch a penny in your hand, it is said to be a cure for travel sickness.
Does it work?
I don't know. I've not tried.
We should do a scientific investigation.
Should we put you on a flight, Susie, and see what happens?
I don't get travel sick.
I'm just scared of flights.
Yeah, just scared of flying.
And I know that they can be used as help for curing arthritis. I've seen that referred to. And in fact, in the list, we've got an example of someone who glued them into their shoes, so the coppers, and the copper would help with the arthritis in their ankles.
So it's said. And also the copper in a penny or 2p, if you place that on a bee sting for 15 minutes, apparently takes the sting away.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We should get you stung by bees, Christopher, and we'll try it.
I'm not liking the direction of this podcast.
I think we need a list of experiments for uses of coins.
Go on, Susie. What about you? What have you got?
I quite like the one where Shakira apparently said in a radio interview that she learnt to belly dance by flicking a coin on her belly. That was said on Radio 1 in 2009. So must be true.
I wonder what denomination she was using.
I don't know. I have actually seen a video of a belly dancer who can sort of turn a coin from the top of her belly, like lying down from the top of her belly to the bottom, like just using her stomach muscles. Bonkers.
You're going to try that one?
No, I don't think I've got the stomach muscles for that.
Oh, got any others? What else we got in there?
I went straight down to the miscellaneous section, so we could have anything. Oh, on completion in December 1938 of a life-size model at the Natural History Museum of a blue whale, a telephone directory and coins of the realm were placed inside the model as a kind of time capsule.
Yeah. We see this, don't we? With coins being buried in sort of foundation stones of buildings. You know, we see this quite a lot. You know, this is a tradition that goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years.
The famous 1933 penny is one of them, which some of our listeners will have no doubt heard about. The 6 that we know of, 3 of them went out there in the big wide world to go underneath the foundation stone of buildings.
Yep, absolutely.
2 to Churches and Dices of Ribbon and 1 to the University of London. So yeah, we see that quite a lot. But there's a whole wealth of things on this list, just picking out some here. So we've got grave goods, medieval folded coins used as a means of inviting divine intervention, as in bringing back to life a drowned child or hanged criminal. It's quite dark. What else we got on here?
It's kind of dark, like the idea of the pennies on the eyes, isn't it? The paying the ferryman or crossing the river Styx or whatever the tradition is.
So people may have watched the start of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and we've got Marley, who's dead. It is Marley, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jacob Marley's dead, and then you've got Scrooge coming along there and taking back the pennies off his eyes because he's too stingy to leave the pennies for the undertakers to take instead. But originally, it would be cartwheel pennies, which are huge, ginormous old pennies, real weights, which would definitely have kept the eyelids down. So
and again, it's that use of a coin as a weight, almost, isn't it? In that respect, one of my favourite ones, and is quite handy, is to check if your freezer has defrosted. So if you go on holiday, the idea is that you place a cup of water in the freezer, gets frozen solid to ice. You place a coin on the top of it, put it back in the freezer, go on holiday, and if you come home and your coin is at the bottom of that pot, it means you had a power cut while you were away. Your freezer has defrosted, the ice melted, coin sunk to the bottom, and it's not safe to eat your food.
Yeah, David, who we'll be hearing more of later on in the series, was telling me about this, and I thought it was an absolute genius idea. I'd never done it before, but he did it all the time with his holidays.
It's so clever. So clever.
Such a good idea.
And then you go from that to military uses. We've got here French Franks used to slow down and incapacitate trains during the Second World War. So obviously putting coins on the railway lines to try and slow them down. How effective that was, I have no idea. But it certainly is something that is referred to on the list.
Another military use is apparently sometimes to check if a bed is made properly. They'll throw a coin on the bed, and if all the sheets are tucked in nice and crisp and tight, it will bounce.
Yeah, I remember being told that as
it's an iconic reference to a coin and military, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's also collecting. People have collected coins for ages, and that's a non-monetary use. You're keeping them to look at and to be an aesthetic thing, aren't you?
Something for their beauty or for your interest into what it might be. I mean, people collect coins for all sorts of reasons. I once came across someone who was collecting coins with hands on. Different depictions of hands, regardless of the era. So all the way from the Anglo-Saxon period all the way up to the modern era. Was just looking for coins that you've got hands on.
That's so niche. I love it.
There's something for everybody.
Exactly.
You're not going to beat my favourite fact, though, no matter how hard you try. My favourite non-monetary use of coin is Sir David Suchet. You might know him from playing Agatha Christie's famous TV detective, Hercule Poirot. Poirot's really distinctive walk is almost like a very tight shuffle.
He minces, doesn't he?
Yeah,
really?
Definitely. Well, he developed this walk by placing a penny between the cheeks of his bottom and not allowing it to drop, which I just think is fabulous.
Must require quite some buttock control to be able to do it, to be honest.
I love how carefully you said that, Chris.
But yes, it's not something I've tried and not something I've got particularly keen to try.
Once again, a one to add to the experiment list.
Feastings, travel sickness,
and walking.
We've got a couple of other big names on the list as well. So there's Sugar Ray Leonard told Jonathan Ross that he put silver dollars in his pockets to make himself heavy at weigh-ins. We've also got Tony Blackburn here saying that when he was a DJ on Radio Caroline, they would put a threepenny piece on the arm of the record player to stop the vinyl getting scratched as the ship rolled. So, and we actually had that in our Vox Pops as well.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I suppose the uses are as diverse as people's requirement for something in a pinch. I quite like the Roman coins being transformed into little compacts, little cosmetic mirrors. The interior is either tinned or silvered.
And as a throwback to our last series, if people hadn't heard it, when we were talking about all things maritime, you, of course, get coins put under ships' masts and in keels, as we found out from the Newport ship.
Yeah, I've now got an obsession with finding out what the coins are. And in any opportunity or any time I see a ship or visit a ship or what have you, I would ask, what are the coins? What are the coins you put in this one?
And for all the keen horticulturists out there, there's this one on here, which I've just caught my eye, that a penny put into the water will keep cut tulips from drooping, which is still something that I've heard done in our family. So it just extends beyond the 101 list.
There's a random one here. Italian coins embedded in a toilet seat. Just
no further detail.
No further details at all. Literally just that. I'm intrigued.
But that's their domestic uses. Now, coins have been also put to a much, much loftier use as well.
We've just listened to the peals. We are here in the belfry of the Elizabeth Tower at the Houses of Parliament. And looking out at this incredible view, it's weird seeing London from inside a landmark that you're so used to looking at. But from here, you can see all the significant landmarks. We've got Westminster Abbey, Buckingham Palace, see the London Eye, looking down on all the morning traffic and the commuters going about their business, and having listened to the clock that keeps time and tells them whether they're late for work or not. It's such an all-encompassing experience, and we had to wear ear defenders because it's so loud, and the resonance of the bell goes on for so much longer than you hear in a recording.
My name's Andrew Strangeway. I work here at Parliament. I'm part of a team of 3 of us, and we're responsible for looking after the clocks of Parliament. There are about 300 heritage clocks around the palace in offices and in committee rooms. And we also are here looking after Big Ben, making sure that the clock is on time and running.
People often think about Big Ben as being the tower, as being the mechanism of the clock. But Big Ben is actually the bell, right?
Correct, yes. So strictly speaking, Big Ben refers to the great bell of the clock. And so that's the main bell which strikes the hours. But that name has been sort of now attributed to the tower itself. And most people will look at, if they look at the building, they'll say that's Big Ben.
And how did the bell get its name? Do you know?
It's somewhat disputed, but it's either probably from the first Commissioner of Works, who was responsible for the installation of the bell, or potentially from a heavyweight boxer that was around at the time.
Can you tell us about the clock itself? Give us a little bit of its history.
Yeah, so the clock was commissioned when they were doing the rebuild of Parliament, because of course the original Palace of Westminster burned down in the early 1800s, and so they were rebuilding Westminster Palace. So they put out a tender for a clock, and it was supposed to be this great clock. It was going to be demonstrating the innovation of Victorian Britain and how good our timekeeping was. And so the clock itself was finished in 1844. It wasn't installed until 1849. So it has been in place now for 165 years. It was designed primarily by Edmund Beckett Denison, later Lord Grimthorpe, who was actually an amateur horologist. That wasn't his main job. He was a lawyer. He later became a lord, but he was heavily involved in the designs. He's quite a forthright man, but produced some real innovations in clocks and timekeeping during the process of making this clock. It was a massive leap forward in terms of timekeeping at the time. Tower clocks at the time, clocks in churches, etc., could be expected to lose or gain minutes in a day. And this clock, when it was built, one of the specifications was that it should strike the hour within 1 second of the correct time.
And that's where the coins come in.
And that's where the coins come in, indeed, yes. So the regulation of the pendulum is done with coins. The period of a pendulum is determined essentially by its length. How long a pendulum is will determine the rate that it ticks at. The pendulum is just over 4 meters long, and it should tick at once every 2 seconds. But by raising the center of gravity of the pendulum, you effectively shorten the pendulum, which will effectively speed it up. So there's a little shelf about a third of the way down the pendulum on which you can place weights, and what we typically use are coins.
Amazing. I suppose they're a known weight. They're a known quantity, aren't they?
They're a known quantity, absolutely. So what you want to know is you want reproducible weights to add, because if you add, the thing that we mainly use is pre-decimal pennies. Adding 1 pre-decimal penny to that shelf will speed the clock up by 2/5 of a second over 24 hours. And so it is a known quantity. We know what we're doing with a pre-decimal penny. We do also use halfpennies and farthings to those smaller quantities, so you can make more precise adjustments.
So you can be exactly on time whenever you need to be.
You can be exactly on time whenever you need to be. And for example, this New Year's, the bell struck within about 5 milliseconds of midnight, which...
Does it become like a competition for who can get it the closest?
Well, I think it's a competition with ourselves, really, just to see how close we can get it. It's
like an obsession.
It's a bit of an obsession.
And you were saying at some point there was a catastrophic failure. Did you say part of it fell down, or?
So in 1976 there was this catastrophic failure. There was the fly fan that I was describing earlier. This governor. It's there to stop the clock running too quickly, the chiming train running too quickly. Due to metal fatigue, the bottom pivot of that broke. So this large vertical piece came off, and that meant that the chimes could run as fast as they liked. And then they did, and the stopping arm, which is supposed to stop them once they've done their chiming, just snapped off because it was running so quickly. And the weight underneath that barrel, the weight hanging off that line there is a ton of water. And so that drops down the height of the tower. So it dropped for sort of 30 meters or so. And the force of that the line running out, the barrel, which I mentioned weighs 3/4 ton, ripped out of the clock.
My goodness.
Flew across the room and actually landed here where we're currently standing.
Wow, you can see a deep gouge in the floor. You've got all these lovely flagstone flooring, and then this massive gouge out of the floor.
Yes, indeed. And so other parts of this side of the clock ended up in the walls. The policeman that heard it, luckily it happened in the early hours of the morning, about 3:40 in the morning. The policeman that heard it thought a bomb might have gone off. And there was bits of gears in the walls. And so that side of the clock, much of that side of the clock has been replaced because it was destroyed. But in fact, they got the clock running. A chap called John Vernon was in charge of looking after the aftermath of this. They jacked the frame up, and they got the clock itself running within a day or so.
That's impressive.
It is impressive. They got the chimes running again in time for the Queen's Jubilee in 1977.
Which brings us quite nicely to the coins, because you said before when we were talking that there is a Jubilee coin on the pendulum.
Absolutely. So there was a coin from the Jubilee gifted to the clock. sort of to commemorate the restoration of the clock in time for the Jubilee, so the chimes were back up and working by the time the Jubilee happened. The silver Jubilee coin from 77 is currently on the pendulum. I'll swap it out for a different coin so I can show it to you. So this silver Jubilee coin sits on the pendulum at all times.
Look, so it's a silver Jubilee crown, 1977, and it's got a special inscription on it. Silver Jubilee crown, presented by Cook Esquire, 1977, marks the reconstruction of the Great Clock. Gosh, isn't that incredible?
Yes, it's a fantastic bit of history there to commemorate the clock being restored in time for the Jubilee. I mean, a huge amount of work went into reconstructing whole sections of the clock. This part of the frame, the part of the frame that the chimes are in, this is actually completely recast. So you can in fact see the seam. You can see it from the front as well. There's a seam where the old frame is joined to the new frame, and in fact this sort of supporting leg is there to help support the weak point where it had to be joined.
So this special coin sits on the pendulum at all times.
That pendulum, yes, absolutely, yeah. That coin is on the pendulum at all times.
Gosh, that's amazing. This is such a familiar coin. There were so many minted.
Yeah.
We have seen many versions of this. People have them in their homes in drawers. People are given them.
Yeah.
I think school kids were given them. There were millions minted.
Yeah.
Never seen one like this.
Yes.
I am so jealous that you both had that opportunity.
We had a good time. It was amazing. It was possibly my best day at work ever.
And if anybody wants to see exactly how good a day it was, they just have to go on our website, romanmuseum.org.uk, and look at the photos of these two staring in amazement at the bell striking.
There wasn't one picture where we didn't have our mouths hanging open with just awe at being in that space.
It's one of those things that you're so used to seeing from the outside, and being able to be inside looking out was just so special.
And as for standing by the bell when it was ringing, I can feel myself getting choked up just thinking about it now, because the echo and the reverberation, you can feel it. The stands that hold the bells up, you can hold onto those and feel this vibration.
You even get a small sense of it on the audio, just listening to it back. The noise difference is incredible, being that close to the bells.
Yeah, it is incredible. And the other big ticket item for me was standing behind the clock face, these iconic clock face, and you're looking out from behind it, watching the seconds tick around. Incredible.
Yeah, we were very, very lucky, and Andrew Strangeway, who showed us around, was just absolutely fabulous, and his knowledge of the clock and his ability, he almost makes light of it. He says, you can just do these calculations on the back of an envelope.
I can't.
I absolutely can't do that. One pre-decimal penny causes the clock to gain 2/5 of a second over 24 hours. Whoa! It was just, just the way that he was saying that, as if, that was easy for everybody to work out how to adjust it. It was just extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why we were there, because of the coins themselves. Everything, the clock sticking to time is only made possible by the various coin weights that are put on the pendulum. And there were a huge variety of them being used.
Yeah, there were. So that's all pre-decimal coins are used on the pendulum, and they had a variety, didn't they? They had a cubby hole, and they had like a little bag of coins that they kept there in order to use as weights. And there were pre-decimal pennies, halfpennies, farthings, and a couple of crown pieces as well.
Yeah, lots of different reigns as well. Lots of different rulers. George V, and there was some Victorian coins.
Yeah,
I think there as
Victorian
well.
one. There was Elizabeth II. But it was just coins from people's pockets. They've made their way up to the top of the tower, and they've just stayed.
And there were a couple of special ones as well. We touched a little bit on the interview, the 1977 one, but there was a 2009 crown piece as well.
Yeah, there was a 2009 crown piece that was actually gifted by the Royal Mint to Big Ben. And it was in the run up to the Olympics. We did this sort of Best of Britain series, and Big Ben was featured because it was its 150th anniversary in 2009. So it was featured on a crown piece, and it was given to the Tower, Elizabeth Tower.
And the 1977 coin, you can see on our website, as with earlier pictures as well, because that's got a sticker on it saying why it was given when the clock actually broke and fell apart, which sounded traumatic.
Yeah, it was actually a major event in the clock's history. So on the 10th of August, 1976, and in the middle of the night, the mechanism just kind of imploded, didn't it? And when you stand in the room where the mechanism is, you can see this massive gouge in the stone floor. And that's where the mechanism just flew apart. It was really lucky there was no one in that space at the time.
I think Andrew said that the security guard on duty at the time thought there'd been a terrorist attack. It was that noisy.
It must have been absolutely extraordinary. And the reason that the Jubilee crown was gifted afterwards was in recognition of the work that went into getting the clock up and running in time for the Silver Jubilee the following year.
Yeah, it's that nation's timekeeper kind of importance. We were talking there about the New Year celebrations and about the celebrations, Remembrance Day. And this was another one of those occasions. It would be unthinkable to have a Jubilee without Big Ben chiming.
And the Silver Jubilee crown, we've seen millions. There were millions minted with it. It was just as an iconic coin. Most people will recognise it when you have a look at it. But it had this special sticker on it, which say why it was gifted. And Andrew was saying that because of that sticker, the coin weighs slightly heavier, which he needs to account for and factor in if he's using that one rather than the 2009 Big Ben coin.
Yeah, he needs to account for this tiny, tiny weight difference on his back of the envelope calculations to work out these millionths of a second.
So why use coins as weights then? Why was it? Well, I heard that you said it earlier before we were recording. Basically, some keeper previously was lazy. They obviously didn't want to go all the way down the 300 steps to get the coin weights they'd left behind.
It's remarkably energy efficient, isn't it? This tower is absolutely enormous. And imagine getting to the top and you need to make your adjustments and you realise that you've actually left your clock weights at the bottom. What have you got on you that's a known weight and reproducible that everybody has? Coins in your pocket.
But it's only made possible that keeper many, many decades ago could do what he did with the coins in his pocket because of what we do here at the Royal Mint. In essence, we at the Mint make a variety of denominations in different sizes at reliable dimensions, so they all have a set weight and a set diameter to which they can be relied upon.
Yeah, and that is drilled into everything that the Mint does, right?
From day one.
That accuracy, the standards, it is the Mint's bread and butter, isn't it?
And that is because of what coinage was for many, many, many centuries, which is that you relied on its weight, its intrinsic weight in precious metal to give it its value. So if you got the weight wrong originally, you would have a coin that was either less valuable or more valuable than it should have been. So getting the weights right has been so, so important. And we could see that by the sheer number of actual weights that we actually have.
Yeah, in one of the stores that we've got, we have shelves and shelves and shelves of weights from the biggest, sort of, I can't even remember how big they are, 1,000?
Ginormous,
yeah,
massive things.
1,000 pounds or so. They're huge weights, right down to these tiny ones, which are just a little sliver of metal that if you didn't know it was a weight, you wouldn't think anything of it.
Tiny grain weights, and that's a measurement of size of grain. But they're literally wafer-thin slivers, little cylinders of tiny bits of metal.
Oh, and a lot of the fancier sort of Victorian ones have also been countermarked each year because the weights have been weighed to make sure that they're weighing correctly so that the coin is always accurate.
So we have weights to weigh the coins to check that the coins are correct, and we have weights to weigh the weights to make sure that the weights are correct when you check the coins.
And then from that point, you also have a ceremony called the Trial of the Picks, which happens annually since 1870, where the coins themselves are checked independently by the goldsmiths at Goldsmiths Hall to make sure that they're the correct weight and specifications that we say there should be.
So even though now we don't have a precious metal coinage, we still have this incredibly tight and strict parameters that we have to, by law, abide by.
And all of that means that when a keeper forgets his coins in the 1920s and 1930s, he can actually put a penny on the pendulum and know that it's going to be of a set weight.
And he has another one that he can use if needs be, and another one, and they will all be exactly the same.
Yeah, with bearing in mind a little bit of weight loss through wear, but they're there or thereabouts, and that gives him the reliance that he needs to know what he's doing. And that is the essence, really, of everything we've talked about here today on this episode. So it's the Mint's commitment to mass-produced accuracy and high standards that make so many of the uses we have talked about and will talk about possible. On that note, we should look to wrap up. But first, we have time for the segment we are calling Penny for Your Thoughts. Cheesy as it is where Abigail and Susie give me their thoughts on the episode. So I'm going to start with you, Abigail. What are your thoughts for this episode?
Mine is one of scale, I think. Going to the Elizabeth Tower, seeing Big Ben, seeing the coins on the pendulum, it's phenomenal. And it's just so amazing that these tiny coins, we're talking pennies, halfpennies, and farthings, can influence such an enormous mechanism. Like, the pendulum itself is over 4 meters long. And these tiny coins, just by placing them or removing them, depending on if you need to speed it up or slow it down, has an impact. And it's just extraordinary.
Just a few grams on something that's so iconic can make such a big difference.
That's all it takes. Yeah, that's all it takes.
But these guys are talking like milliseconds.
Yeah, that's true.
They're trying to get it as accurate as possible. I love that commitment from them to that absolute accuracy.
Yeah, and him saying, Andrew Strangeway saying that because of the coins, the clock is rarely more than half a second out.
It's pretty impressive for something like that.
Some really good timekeeping.
And when you think the entire clock is mechanical as well, there's nothing electrical in there at all, apart from some of the winding gear. That is absolutely phenomenal.
So that's a great thought to start with. What about you, Susie?
I think mine's a bit more holistic. I'm just really pleased we got to use 101 uses for coins. I think in the 11 years I've been here, it's always been a thing. Well, will it be a book? You know, what are we going to do with it? Because it's such an incredible resource. And I'm so pleased we get to share it with everyone. Abigail, you put together an incredible exhibition at the Royal Mint Experience. We've got this podcast. We'll have website content. I'm really excited to share it with everybody.
And it's still growing. We're constantly adding to this list.
And that is a good call for people who are listening today to add their own. If you have any uses of coins that you want to tell us about that we haven't heard about so far, then do get in touch. We have the address.
podcast@royalmint.com.
Thanks, Susie. And all of you should get in touch. Let us know what your uses of coins are, and we will add them to the infamous / famous list that is now finally getting a use on our podcast. Thank you very much for listening to the first episode of our new series. And it just leaves me to say a big thank you to our guests as well, Dr. Andrew Strangeway and the staff of the Royal Mint, who offered so freely the different ways they have used coin. If you have liked what you have heard, please do rate, like, and subscribe to the show. Our music today is by Justin Bryant, and our editor is Hugh James. Until next time, it is goodbye from Susie.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye from Abigail.
Bye-bye.
And goodbye from me.
Join us next time when we discuss all things bling and beautiful in the form of coins in jewellery, from the ancient to the modern.